Hello everyone, and welcome back to the How to Better English podcast, the show dedicated to helping you unlock your fluency potential.
I'm Emma, and I'm joined as always by Liam. It is wonderful to be back with you all.
It certainly is, Emma. Today, we are tackling a topic that every single English learner, from beginner to advanced, focuses on constantly: vocabulary. We're going to discuss how to boost your English vocabulary, and not just boost it, but boost it fast and effectively.
That's the key, isn't it? Speed is great, but retention is better. We want to give you methods that stick. Practical ways to take new words and actually make them part of your active speaking and writing.
Exactly. Think of your vocabulary as the toolbox for your language. The bigger and more specialized your toolbox is, the better you can express subtle ideas, and the more nuanced your conversations become.
Before we dive into our top strategies, a quick favor to ask of all our dedicated listeners. If you find value in these episodes, please take a moment to subscribe, like, or leave a review wherever you listen to podcasts.
That simple action helps us immensely. When you share the podcast with a friend or colleague who is also learning English, you're helping them improve their skills too, and you help our community grow. So, thank you in advance for helping us spread the word about better English.
Now, Liam, building vocabulary can sometimes feel like trying to catch water in a sieve. You learn 10 words one day, and you feel like you've forgotten 7 by the next week. It can be discouraging.
It absolutely can be, and usually, that feeling comes from relying on passive learning, like just reading a long list of words in a textbook. We need to switch that mindset. Building vocabulary isn't just about memorization. It's about acquisition and application.
Let's break down the first major strategy, which is leveraging organization. We call this themed word lists. Instead of learning random words, we group them by subject or theme.
This works because our brains love connections. If you learn the word mortgage, interest rate, equity, and appraisal all together, your brain files them under the category housing and finance. It's much easier to retrieve them when you are talking about that specific subject.
Imagine trying to learn 20 random verbs, 20 random nouns, and 20 random adjectives all mixed up. That's chaos. But if you spend 1 week focusing solely on words related to workplace communication, your learning curve will jump significantly.
Let's take a practical example of how to implement a themed word list. Suppose you are preparing for a job interview. Your theme is professional attributes. You wouldn't just learn basic words. You would acquire words like diligence, proactive, meticulous, synergy, and adaptability.
And the key here isn't just writing the words down, it's writing them down with their surrounding context. For meticulous, you don't just write careful, you write, I ensure my reports are meticulous. Checking every data point twice. That sentence is crucial for retention.
Absolutely. The structure of this method is what makes it fast and effective. You dedicate a specific block of time, say 30 minutes, not to 20 random words, but to 10 highly relevant words within one theme. This intense focus creates deep neural pathways.
Another fantastic theme to focus on is emotional nuance. Instead of saying happy, sad, or angry, which are basic, we expand our lexicon to include more precise feelings.
For example, instead of just angry, you might learn irate, furious, exasperated, or resentful. Each word describes a specific shade of anger. When you start using these words, your English immediately sounds more sophisticated and precise.
This is vital because often we know the basic words, but we struggle to find the exact word we need to convey the subtle difference in meaning. Themed lists solve that problem by presenting a family of related vocabulary all at once.
Let's move on to our second major strategy, which leverages technology and psychology, flashcards and spaced repetition systems, or SRS. This is perhaps the fastest way to solidify new vocabulary.
Liam, flashcards have been around forever, but the digital versions apps like Anki, Quizlet, or Memrise have revolutionized the learning process. Primarily through that concept you mentioned, spaced repetition.
SRS is based on the idea that the moment you are about to forget a piece of information, the system brings it back up for review. If you successfully recall the word, the system waits longer until the next review. If you fail to recall it, the system brings it back sooner.
This ensures that you are always challenging your memory right at the point of forgetting, which is the most efficient way to transfer knowledge from short-term memory to long-term memory. It dramatically boosts retention.
When creating a digital flashcard, or even a physical one, please, do not just put the English word on one side and your native language translation on the other. That's a passive method.
A truly effective flashcard requires 3 things. 1. The target word on the front. 2. The definition in simple English on the back. And 3. Crucially, a full sentence using the word naturally.
For example, if your word is ubiquitous, meaning appearing or found everywhere, on the back you might write, "In the modern era, smartphones have become ubiquitous, indispensable tools for daily life."
When you are reviewing, don't just look at the word and think the translation. Try to generate your own new sentence using the word before you flip the card. That forces active recall and moves the word into your active lexicon.
Let's reiterate why this strategy is so fast. If you commit to reviewing a batch of 20 to 30 flashcards for just 5 to 10 minutes every morning and every evening, the compounding effect of the SRS ensures that the review time is only spent on the words you actually need help with. You don't waste time reviewing words you already know well.
It's efficient time management for your brain. And speaking of efficiency, the use of context is the third and perhaps most crucial long-term strategy for vocabulary acquisition. We call this context-based learning.
Vocabulary learned in isolation tends to die in isolation. If you just memorize perplexed means confused, you still don't know how to use it. When we encounter words in stories, articles, or movies, we learn their nuances, their common collocations, and the grammatical structure they prefer.
This is where immersion comes into play. Even if you don't live in an English-speaking country, you must commit to reading and listening to authentic English content that is slightly above your current comfort level.
Let's talk about the reading strategy. Emma, many learners stop reading whenever they hit a word they don't know, running immediately to the dictionary. That can kill the flow and make reading feel like a chore.
We recommend the context clue strategy. When you encounter an unknown word, first, highlight or circle it and keep reading to the end of the paragraph. Often, the surrounding text will give you enough clues to grasp the general meaning.
This is called inferring meaning. For instance, if you read "The politician delivered a scathing critique of the current administration," listing several major policy failures that infuriated his listeners, even if you don't know scathing, the context critique, policy failures, infuriated, tells you that scathing means harsh or severely critical.
Once you finish the chapter or the article, then you go back and look up the words you circled. Why? Because you've already guessed the meaning once, and now the dictionary lookup confirms or corrects your hypothesis. This active engagement dramatically improves memory.
And the same principle applies to listening, such as watching English language TV series or podcasts. Don't pause every time you hear an unfamiliar phrase. Let the conversation flow and try to understand the overall emotional tone or message.
If you watch TV with subtitles, only turn on English subtitles, not your native language subtitles. If the speech is moving too quickly, pause, rewind 10 seconds, and read the English subtitle to confirm what you missed. This is training your ear and your eye simultaneously.
The true magic of context-based learning is that it facilitates natural acquisition. You are not forcing your brain to memorize a list. You are letting the language seep in through meaningful use.
And this brings us back to those key terms we mentioned at the start, which are foundational to understanding effective vocabulary expansion: acquire, retain, and apply. These 3 verbs define your success.
Let's start with acquire. To acquire a word means to come into possession of it. You read it in a book, you heard it in a podcast, or a friend used it in a conversation. You now know it exists.
For example, you acquire the word resilience when you hear someone describe a person who recovered quickly from a setback. You recognize it, but you haven't necessarily mastered it yet. You've simply brought it into your personal learning sphere.
Next is retain. To retain means to keep possession of something, specifically in your memory. This is where methods like themed lists and spaced repetition come into play. They ensure that the words you acquire stick around and don't disappear a week later.
Retention is tested when the word comes up again, maybe a week or a month later, and you immediately recognize it and remember its core meaning without needing to look it up. You have successfully retained the information.
And the final, most crucial step is apply. To apply means to put the word into practical use, either by writing it down in an email or using it actively in a conversation. A word isn't truly yours until you've successfully applied it multiple times.
This is the biggest hurdle for many learners. They have high retention. They can recognize many words but low application. They don't feel confident enough to use the new vocabulary, so it sits passively in their knowledge base.
To boost application, we suggest creating deliberate opportunities to use your new vocabulary. If you learned 5 words in your professional attributes theme this week, make a goal to use one of them every day in an email or during a meeting.
Let's tie these concepts together with another important term, lexicon. Your lexicon is essentially your personal word bank, the total set of vocabulary items you know and use. We are trying to build a richer lexicon.
A richer lexicon means not only knowing more words, but also knowing how to use them in precise contexts. It means moving beyond merely functional English into truly expressive English.
So, let's revisit the themed lists method, combining it with the acquisition, retention, and application cycle. Let's say we choose the theme art and creativity.
We start by acquiring 5 words: palette, abstract, critique, medium, and masterpiece. We look up the English definition and examples.
Then we focus on retention, using our flashcard app. We set up an SRS schedule to review these words for 10 minutes every day, making sure we generate a sample sentence each time.
For example, for medium, we might write, "The sculptor chose marble as his preferred medium because of its classic elegance." That sentence solidifies the meaning far better than just defining medium as material.
Finally, we focus on application. We might write a short paragraph describing a piece of art we like, specifically forcing ourselves to use masterpiece and abstract naturally in the text.
This systematic approach, acquiring in context, retaining via spaced repetition, and applying through deliberate practices, why these methods are not just fast, but sustainable. You are working with your brain's natural learning rhythms.
Let's spend a little more time focusing on the concept of applying vocabulary, because this is often the missing piece. Application requires risk, which can be scary for English learners.
It does require taking a leap. If you are learning a sophisticated adjective like pithy, meaning brief but full of substance and meaning, you have to be willing to try it out, even if you feel awkward the first time.
If you write an email and you think, should I say the summary was good, or should I say the summary was pithy? We encourage you to choose the new word. That choice is the difference between passive knowledge and active, usable vocabulary.
If you are primarily learning through conversation, try the word quota challenge. For the next hour, I must successfully use the word conjecture, meaning an opinion or conclusion based on incomplete information.
For example, in a meeting, someone is brainstorming, you might say, that's an interesting point, but for now, it's just conjecture until we see the data. When you successfully deploy that word, you have moved it from the study list into your live vocabulary.
Another tip for fast vocabulary building is to utilize word families. When you learn one form of a word, try to learn the related noun, verb, and adjective forms simultaneously.
For example, if you learn the noun determination, which means firmness of purpose, also learn the verb to determine, the adjective determined, and perhaps the adverb determinedly.
This massively increases your word count instantly and gives you flexibility. If you only know the adjective determined, you might struggle when you need the noun form. By learning the family, you enrich your lexicon efficiently.
Let's look at another example with the word innovation. The noun is innovation, meaning a new method or idea. The verb is to innovate. The adjective is innovative.
If you learn all 3 together, you can say, the company aims to innovate. Their latest project shows great innovation, or she is a highly innovative thinker. 3 sentences, 1 root word, learned. That is, maximizing your learning time.
This ties back perfectly to the themed list concept. If your theme is business strategy, you would naturally learn innovation, synergy, and leverage all together, and immediately look up their respective word families.
We also want to touch on the idea of incorporating filler vocabulary that improves natural conversational flow. These aren't necessarily complex academic words, but phrases that native speakers use all the time.
We mean phrases that add emphasis or transition ideas smoothly. Like on the flip side, to be fair, by the same token, or in a nutshell, learning these phrases helps you sound more fluent, even when you are still acquiring formal vocabulary.
Learning a new word is only half the battle. Learning the correct context and emotional tone is the other half. For example, the phrase "to hit the nail on the head" means to say something exactly right. You need to know that this phrase is informal and positive.
If you just learn the literal translation, you might use it incorrectly. But if you acquire it through a story where a friend says, "Wow, you really hit the nail on the head with that analysis," you acquire the meaning and the tone simultaneously.
And this reinforces why contextual learning, whether through reading, listening, or conversation, is superior to rote memorization. It provides the essential cultural and linguistic scaffolding for every new word.
To truly boost your vocabulary fast, you need a disciplined approach. We recommend setting a realistic, manageable goal, perhaps 5 new themed words per day, thoroughly reviewed using SRS flashcards.
That's 35 new words acquired, retained, and applied every week. Over the course of a year, that is over 1,800 new words added to your active lexicon. Imagine the level of expression you will achieve.
It sounds like a lot, but when you break it down into small, daily thematic chunks and use the efficient system of spaced repetition, it is entirely achievable, and it will change how you communicate in English.
Let's quickly run through our 3 main actionable takeaways one more time. Emma, before we wrap up today's expansive session on vocabulary boosting,
first, ditch the random lists and embrace themed vocabulary lists. Organize your words by subject, be it finance, art, or technology, to leverage your brain's love for categories. This is key for efficient acquisition.
Second, utilize spaced repetition systems, specifically digital flashcard apps. Force yourself into active recall by generating full sentences, not just translations. This is the ultimate tool for fast retention.
And third, commit to context-based learning. Read and listen to English content that is slightly challenging, and use context clues to infer meaning before you reach for the dictionary. This transforms passive knowledge into usable application.
Focus on acquiring words that truly add value to your communication, retaining them through consistent review, and, most importantly, applying them daily until they become a permanent part of your rich lexicon.
We hope that breaking down these strategies and clarifying terms like acquire, retain, and apply has given you a clear, actionable plan to tackle vocabulary building with renewed energy and efficiency.
That's all the time we have for this week's episode of the How to Better English podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in.
We are committed to helping you on your English journey. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with anyone you know who is working hard to improve their English skills.
Until next time, keep practicing, keep learning, and keep building that amazing lexicon.
Goodbye for now.
Bye everyone.